Terrific. Hey, congratulations for Long Gone Wild here. What was the initial attraction to a project like this?
Well, I've been fascinated by killer whales for a long time. I wrote a book called Rogue Justice about killer whales, a novel, right around the time that Don Branchow was killed by Tilikum in Orlando, which was the impetus for Blackfish, the documentary. And that, of course, had a major impact on SeaWorld and raising perception of orcas in captivity. But fast forward now, it's been 6 years since Blackfish came out, and the orcas are still there. And so that was one of the main focuses of the film, was to let people know that that's still going on. The orcas are still there. The second thing was what's happening between Russia and China. The Russians are live capturing orcas again, which hasn't happened in the West in 30 years or more, and selling them to the Chinese for $7 million a whale into this exploding marine theme park industry in China. They have 80 parks and counting. And in its heyday, SeaWorld had 4 parks, so to give you an idea. So this is a very disturbing development. Quickly, on the flip side, is the Whale Sanctuary Project, which is developing a site for retired orcas, probably be in Puget Sound area, which is a cove that is basically netted off, where the whales can have 24/7 care, because they can't be just dropped back into the ocean. Most of them now at SeaWorld, most of the whales were bred. So they don't know how to hunt, they don't know how to kill. So those are kind of the main elements that we had with the film, and my interest was just telling a great story and letting people know just what's going on both in the East and in the West.
Now, the thing about doing documentaries is that a lot of people is going to point out, well, that's been done before, especially since this was kind of like riding off a Blackfish. How did you want to approach this film?
Well, we saw Blackfish as the starting point, really. So we went forward from Blackfish. We cover what's called the Blackfish effect, which was what happened at SeaWorld, which their stock tanked. The company nearly went out of business over this. What happened after that was SeaWorld did make 2 concessions. They agreed to stop their breeding program of orcas. So this will be the last generation of orcas. But it's a bit misleading because a lot of the orcas there are young, 4 or 5 years old. So they could be, and they can live to be 50, 60 years old, 70 years old. So they could be there for decades. The other concession they made was to phase out performances the concessions were made in 2016 to phase out the performances by this year. But it's really kind of smoke and mirrors on that one, because they basically changed the facade for the audience, but nothing has really changed for the whales. They still come out and perform their circus tricks. It's just done in a more educational atmosphere.
Since Blackfish did come out 6 years ago, obviously if you're trying to do a similar documentary, aren't you going to be facing a lot of hostilities towards this time around?
From whom? Who you
from like these parks, these Chinese, these Russians, everybody?
Well, it's difficult to say. I think we had a screening last night, as I think you know, and there was a question raised by a Chinese woman last night in the Q&A, and she was saying that, we've got to somehow get this into China because the young people, will resonate with this message because they want to feel like they're being progressive in China. And this is a very regressive policy to have orcas performing their circus tricks is really going back 50 years to when SeaWorld started it. And in many other ways, on the environment, on electric cars, and a whole rash of other areas, The Chinese are being very progressive, and this is very regressive. So, I think if we hit the right audience, it'll be well accepted.
What are some of the solutions that you are hoping that people would come up with after watching the film like this?
Great question. First off is kind of take it from the West and the East. In the West, what we want to do is have people understand that those whales are still at SeaWorld, they're still performing every day, and to let SeaWorld know that it's time that they start retiring those whales to the Whale Sanctuary Project. And SeaWorld has had a valid point for many years, because they would say, well, you want us to release the whales, but where are they going to go? There's no place for them to go. We can't drop them back in the ocean, which was true. Well, that's not true anymore. So soon the Whale Sanctuary Project will have their site, and there won't be that excuse anymore. So that's what we want to do in the West. In the East, we're hoping to raise awareness about this massive potential problem with Russia and China. And there's an organization in China called the China Cetacean Alliance, which is a group of animal welfare people who are tracking what's going on there very closely. And we want people to support them and help them get to the right people in China. And as you only need to get to that one guy in China. Yeah. If you can get to the president, it can happen overnight. So it's not like here where you got, all the committees and Congress and whoever you might have to go through for something like this. There, it's like, if he makes the decision, it's done. And getting to him won't be easy, but that's the goal.
So are you hoping like your film would go viral, just like Blackfish, where the media picks it up and then the social media picks it up and then it goes bonkers this way?
That'd be ideal, absolutely. And we just had a story in from Forbes magazine did a story. CNN is doing a story. Good Morning America is doing a story this next week. So we're getting some great publicity now, and I think once the people start seeing the film, it resonated really well last night with everybody at the screening. So yeah, I think it'll get out there.
Terrific. And what are some of your upcoming projects after something like this?
Well, I've got a couple books in the works, and so that I'm going to do that. And I haven't decided. I've got some other documentary ideas, but this has been a big undertaking for the last couple years, and we've still got a lot of work to do on this one. So focus on this.
Great. And for people who will check out your documentary in the future, what is the one most important lesson that you hope that they would take out of this? Don't
buy a ticket. Don't buy a ticket. The bottom line is, if people don't go to SeaWorld, they won't keep having the orcas perform.
Mm-hmm. And that would teach them a lesson, right?
It would, and just to back up a bit, what's happening when families take their children to see these shows, they're teaching them basically that it's okay to abuse nature, because that's what they're doing. Orcas have no business being cooped up in a concrete tank. They swim routinely 100 miles a day. They dive to depths of 300 feet, and in captivity, they swim around in circles. So it's just they are basically imprisoned for crimes that don't exist.
Absolutely. Well, hey, congratulations, and I hope your message resonates out there.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.